going live.
Okay.
Um,
When you're done, I want to talk to you because I know that you said that you want me to wait to do that CIWA, and I really do want you
Okay.
to look at it.
that's fine.
Okay. Love you.
Love you too.
Good luck.
CIWA. Oh, it's on here. Okay. That's fine. Love you too. So you just you're included in the beginning of the stream. So, for what it's worth, huh? Yeah, you're in the stream. Hi, how you doing, everybody? My wife was talking to me as I was going live, so that was her asking me about some type of license. They said thank you for sharing me, babe. I'll let her know. Thank you. Hi, Mason. Hi, Jules. Hi, Matt. How are you? Like I said, it's been an awesome experience. Thank you, Dallas. And so it's a lot of fun. I'm having a good day. I've had a good day just overall on a lot of different fronts. So I'm feeling kind of festive. You guys are getting me in a festive mood yet again. So thanks for chiming in. It might be a fun filled night. A lot of joking going around. So I'm just posting this real quick, and we'll kind of take it from there. Hey, Maria, how are you? And let me see here. Okay, buddy. Anybody seen the movie Wall Street? I think I got on a couple minutes early. So thank you guys for jumping on as I'm getting on. But I wanted to kind of not cut into time as much, which is why I kind of jumped in. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Cheryl. And so this is why I kind of jumped on here like this. But let me see. So it is. Oh boy, I don't know why that didn't go through. Okay. And that is that. You see? What was a good movie? I didn't know. I don't know what you guys are talking about with the movie front. Catch down. Which press conference? Donna, what are you guys talking about right now? Oh, the movie. That's right. That's what it's from. Okay, buddy. That's exactly right. That's what the line's from. We are back in business in Blue Star. And I love that line, by the way. There's a client I tell it all the time to. Is okay, buddy. We're back. When we end up trading around positions, I like to reference that line. I don't watch anything by Biden. I think the odds of something happening positive for President Trump. I'll just call him President Trump. I think the odds went up 2 to 3% in the past week alone. That something interesting could occur for President Trump. So that's for what it's worth. I don't have any crystal ball or anything. I'm just telling you based on what I witness with what's happening in China, what's happening with oil. All this stuff is taking place. That makes me think maybe some of those crazy theories weren't so crazy after all. So we're going to find out soon enough. Hopefully we find out by July 4th. How cool would that be if that happened before July 4th? So anyways, let me see. Lisa, I don't like to hear that they're blocking me. I got to get on the Rumble. But by the way, I am having a site built, for Python points. I have the domain already. And then I'm going to put a lot of this information out there. And over time, I might build out something of a crowdsourced intelligence type of effort by Americans, and just make it available to all Americans, so to speak. So, for what it's worth. So with that, let's get into Exodus 15. Okay. Okay. So they were celebrating all of the Pharaoh's, I guess troops. I mean, they weren't called troops. I guess the Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and all of his soldiers, being swallowed up by the Red Sea. And so Exodus 15 kind of talked about that. People are extremely excited. But, I got to tell you, as I'm reading this, all right, you have to remember something about Exodus. Moses was wandering around in the desert, folks, for like 40 years, right? There's been comedians talking about this. Like over the years, I've heard about that. And, as I'm reading this again, and, after obviously people have seen the movie, you've heard about this story. We've heard about it at least once every 3 years. If you're Roman Catholic, some people hear it more than once every 3 years. And, but anyways, what was interesting is how many people turned against Moses, and they complained nonstop. And I got to tell you, while I was listening to all of this complaining and not believing, I couldn't help but think that here we are, right? We have a lot of complaining of people, a lot of people that don't believe. And if you go back 40 years in this country, when was 40 years ago? Okay, 40 years ago was 1981, right? Right when Reagan got in. So 1981 to now has been 40 years. So what was happening in the United States? I think that there's a connection here, folks, with the Jews and Moses wandering the desert for 40 years looking for the promised land. So in 1979, 1980, this joker by the name of Jimmy Carter, right? He ran the country into the ground. Now, keep in mind, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. So was it all him? Probably not. But he made a lot of blunders that ended up costing the U.S. tremendously over the next 40 years. He let in millions of Chinese nationals into our universities. That led to the weaponization of our universities as well as our institutions on U.S. soil. He basically tried to get everybody to lower their expectations that things were going to get worse. So he's like basically threading the needle for what was here to come with regards to globalism. We had unemployment rates shoot up. We had inflation shoot up. Part of it is what happened with the Arab oil embargo, where the price of oil, keep in mind, folks, the price of a barrel of oil, okay, before we went off the gold standard was $3 a barrel. So you could buy a barrel of oil for $3. And within the span of like 2 years, it shot up to $12, which is a huge move back then. You got to remember, people made in 1970, they were making like $1. I want to say it was like $1.60 an hour, $1.30, $1.60 an hour for minimum wage. So to oil, can you imagine here? So I've done a piece on this with regards to what the minimum wage of the United States should be if you adjusted for productivity gains and you adjusted for inflation. Now, folks, don't shoot the messenger, okay? I'm not here to tell you we should have minimum wage at that rate. I'm just telling you what it should be from a theoretical economics perspective. And the minimum wage in the United States right now, based on our productivity and based on how much we've debased our currency, should be about $30 an hour, $32 an hour, okay? Now, what's interesting is the price of oil used to be $3 a barrel. The price of oil divided by $1.60 minimum wage back then, $1.50, I said $1.30, $1.60, is about, you work 2 hours and you get to buy a barrel of oil. So if you think about it back then, you get to buy a barrel of oil if you work 2 hours. Well, a barrel of oil today is $60. So my calculation, I should have just did the oil calculation. I should have said how many hours you got to work to own a barrel of oil. That should be minimum wage. And so today, a barrel of oil is $60. Minimum wage should be about 30. That's what I computed without looking at oil prices. So anyways, minimum wage in this country federally is like $7, right? 7.25. Some states went up to 10 to $12. Okay, so you got to work 5 hours. But it's like, wait a second, Bobby. We used to only have to work 2 hours for a barrel of oil. So we're getting taken over the barrel. So anyways, I'm sure you guys have heard of the line, right? Taking it over the barrel. So anyways, I'm just sorry. I couldn't help myself that this was, so when I'm sitting there listening to all these people complaining, about Moses, and I'm thinking about the 40 years, and then it's just kind of like making me think about, okay, what did we do as a nation for 40 years? And you could definitely say that we, the people of the United States, we've been kind of like wandering around lost in the desert. So, the U.S. is kind of like, what the hell is going on? So we're kind of looking at stuff, trying to figure out who to blame. We're blaming Moses. Moses is like, wait a second, guys. I inherited this mess. I'm sorry. I told you guys I was going to be in a festive move. So I had a really good day. I'm feeling festive. And I'm just saying that Moses was like, guys, come on. I got you guys. I got you. I got the ball rolling. I got you out of Egypt. And now you guys are going to blame me for all the problems of getting us out of the slavery that we were in. I mean, it just seems kind of funny. So, we're in the middle of that right now. You can say President Trump, in getting elected in 2016, ending 40 years essentially of the tyranny of the Bush and Clinton crime families who ran this government. I went over that, folks. I'll say it real quick again. Clinton prosecuted Nixon. Nixon was gotten in because of Prescott Bush. George H.W. Bush convinced Nixon to resign. All of a sudden, Bush is supposed to be president. Instead, he's VP. They almost killed Kennedy. He's VP for 8 years. Then he's president for 4. Then then Clinton, who was running drugs from the cartel out of down in the South, he becomes the governor. Look into Mena, Arkansas, in the movie called American Made, and see for yourself. And then all of a sudden, Escobar gets killed because they want that cash that Escobar was collecting. So then all of a sudden, you get 8 years of Clinton, then you get 8 years of a Bush after Jeb helps his brother, while the hanging Chad incident takes place and puts all this fraudulent voting across. Whoa, sorry. I didn't say fraudulent voting. Nope. Take that back. Let's rewind that. Just delete that statement. We got very interesting voting that took place for the last 20 years after the Chad incident. Bush for another 8 years. Then it was supposed to be Clinton's turn. Clinton gets mad, says, why didn't everybody cheat for me as hard as they did for Biden? Did she really say that? Or is that just made up? Man, it does seem like something she would say, though, right? She like, why didn't everybody cheat for me as badly as they cheated for Biden? but anyways, for 32 plus years, the Clinton and the Bushes have run this country into the ground. So the question is, how much of it is them, and how much of it is other forces that are paying them to do these things? So anyways, this is what I'm thinking about as I'm looking at Exodus, and I'm hearing all the complaining. And instead of everybody complaining to Moses, they're not trying to find solutions. They're looking for a way out. They're looking, I hate to say it, they got a little bit of, they're looking for the Messiah. They're looking for someone to solve their problems and Moses should say, look, guys, we got to figure out how to solve our own problems too. Like, there's God, and God is here to help us, and we got to follow the righteous way and do the right thing. But at the end of the day, I think the big moral of the story is we got to get stuff done. We can't make excuses. We have to take the time to fix the problems as we see them, get involved, and and create heaven on earth. It starts with all of us. And so we have the ability to create. We're all gifted as such, and we just need to start stepping up and acting like it, and throw off all these chains that have been thrown onto us from all these different methods and sources, between them putting a chain on us with regards to the way we eat, that we feel heavy and lethargic. I want to mention something about that. I was just talking to my wife about it. so we're talking about the mathematics of weight loss, and I've lost about 7 pounds, over like, I would say about 3 weeks. Just, maybe I don't look like it, right? My cheeks are still kind of puffy. But anyways, when I lost the 7 pounds, I lost like 5.5, 6 really fast. Then I went to DC, and I didn't eat more calories, folks. I ate about the same amount of calories. I'm very careful about how much I consume. But I noticed I picked up about 3 pounds in 3 days, right? And it took me about a week to get rid of that 3 pounds. But I didn't eat more calories than I was eating prior to the trip, and I didn't eat less calories the subsequent week after getting back from the trip. So anyways, oh, well, thanks, Jules. I guess I look really puffy then than I did three weeks ago. But anyways, what I would say is, Maria, I think you're right. It might be salt, but there's also ingredients that they're putting into our foods that I think are really screwing up our metabolism, and they're screwing up our gut bacteria, and maybe they kill some of our gut bacteria, whatever it is. But we can't trust any of these people anymore. We have to crowdsource and solve this stuff on our own. And I really think we need to break it down and look into what can we do to solve these problems on our own, because it seems as though the universities create whatever research they're asked to create, to pitch something. Hey, we need to sell this drug. Why don't you show us some research that this drug does some good stuff? All right, we need to pitch this new ingredient. Show some research that people might like this ingredient. That's what it seems to be, folks. I don't know if you guys are just as skeptical as me, but I really have just tried to go back to like, what's in this bread? Wheat. And maybe like water, maybe, a couple other things, I guess. I don't even know what's in bread. Maybe flour, a couple other ingredients. It's like 3-4 ingredients. I'm done. I try to just have the raw materials. I mean, go look at a salad bottle, the salad dressing bottle. I don't know, there's like 40 things in it. Then I'm like, wait, I could just buy olive oil and just have olive oil, which is just olive oil, and that's it. It's olive oil. So I try to do that, and when I do that, a funny thing happens. I don't need any more calories, but my weight seems to continue to drop, or I lose the weight. So I think a lot of us are confused at times, thinking we need to do all these fancy diets and do everything else. And we need to cut how many calories we eat and everything else. And I'm not so sure we need to cut how many calories we eat, man. I really used to think that was what it was about. I think we just need to stop eating calories that are not real calories. They're not from the food. They're literally, I think that, they're literally just, they must be putting something in to make us, feel like crap all the time. And that's just one way. Then I worry they might be microdosing us in our coffee. So that's why I try to buy coffee beans and roast them myself, because I don't know what process they're using to roast the damn beans. So, or if they grind them yourself. I have my own grinder. So I'm doing all these little things which are more time consuming, but I notice that the more I do them, the better I feel. So, anyways, I don't know if you guys have noticed a similar type of thing, but I just want to kind of bring that out. Well, I'm glad that I look 7 pounds. It looked like I lost more than 7 pounds. I'll take it. But I still got a few more to go. I got all these little virus pounds sticking around on me. Okay, so now we're going to go to manna and the quail from heaven. So then, as they're in there, they're complaining about food. God basically told Moses, announced to the community, and this was a kind of interesting story. So, God was kind of testing them to see what their fate was like, and he gave them more food than they needed to eat, and he gave them bread in the morning and then meat at night. But then on one of the days, he would give them twice as much to see if they would overconsume. And I thought that was pretty interesting, like this whole concept. On the sixth day, on the sixth day, they gathered twice as much as usual, 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. Then the leaders came and asked, for an explanation. This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be the day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow. And so, I guess they had twice as much food because then they were supposed to eat the next day. But it's an interesting concept to test them out, to see, like to create almost like, like a willpower back then, right? Because there was no, people would prepare and make as much food as they were going to eat on any given day. And so to put together more food than you needed on any given day, and then, exercise discipline not to consume it, knowing that you had to eat it the next day. There's this old marshmallow experience, right? Or experiment. So there's some psychologists, and this is what came to mind when I kind of read this. If you take two kids and you go into a room, psychologists would go into a room and they would test out these kids, and they'd put like a marshmallow down on the table, and it was like a 2 or 3 year old kid, and they would tell the kid, look, if you eat that marshmallow, that's all you get, okay? But I'll tell you what, if you don't eat that marshmallow, and I come back 15 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, I will give you 2 marshmallows tomorrow. And they would test to see how many kids would eat the marshmallow and how many would hold off, not eat it, and wait till tomorrow to get 2. Okay? Now, it turns out the kids that can exercise that discipline and not have to have it, like in the moment, like right away, they got to eat that marshmallow, they tend to do better in life, the ones that can wait a day. And that's an incredibly powerful concept in investing. Like if you can hold off or delay gratification by investing, you tend to do a little better over time if you do that. Well, the research shows that children do this. Now, here's the kicker. What makes a child what makes a child wait an extra day and not eat it immediately? Okay? And this applies to the world we're living in right now, folks. Okay, this is extremely relevant to what we're going through as a nation right now, and not just the United States, but the whole world is going through this. One of the big, you got it, Maria just said it, trust. Trust. If the kids do not trust that they will get what they were told they would get, they immediately consume it. Now, how is that relevant to what's happening in the world today? There has been a very satanic, communistic, horrible attempt to assassinate, kill, undermine, destroy the trust that we have in our institutions, in each other, in other Americans, in ourselves. That they're pulling out all the stops to undermine trust, so that then we don't take the long view. If you don't take the long view and you don't build things and you don't set up systems to take the long view, is it easier or harder to defeat you? I think everybody knows the answer to that. And so, it's funny you say that, Celicia, because I'm in the financial industry, and I don't have any, official opinion on Roth IRAs, but all I can say is they've always made me nervous, because I don't trust politicians either. So, for what it's worth. So, anyways, it's something to think about, because part of this story in Exodus and teaching the Jews to delay gratification by what they did, you can't help but think maybe this is why the Jews tend to do pretty well financially relative to other groups in society. There's like 3 groups that I think there was a book called The Millionaire Next Door by this guy named Stanley. The last name is Stanley. And he did research on the most successful groups in American society. And some of this also applies worldwide, so it's not just U.S. society. But three of the most successful groups in American society that have the most money with regards to overall as a group within the United States, like a heritage or culture, you want to call it, is the Jewish people, Scottish people, and then Russians. So Russians are always assuming the worst is coming. I happen to be Polish. Polish people think the worst is coming a lot too, but Russians take it to another level. They've lived through so much insanity and chaos that they tend to stockpile resources and money and so forth. And so, this is the way the Russians behave. And as a result of behaving that way, they accrue a lot of wealth. And then, sometimes, unfortunately, some of that wealth turns into abuses and power. Okay. So then in terms of the Scottish, I don't know if you know about the Scots. Okay. I think my wife is slightly Scottish, and I know over the years in the finance industry, a lot of the groups of people that have had the most money to invest tended to be Jews, had some kind of Scottish in them, or they tended to be, foreigners from Russia or Eastern Europe. So those are the three groups, folks, that have a lot of money. So my suggestion for anybody that wants to accrue more resources for themselves and their family is study some of the attributes of why they've accrued all this wealth and money. And so with regards to the Scots, going back 400 years, 500 years, Scotland was pretty much, a wasteland, right? Relative to Ireland and relative to the UK. It was kind of like the whipping boy. And everybody kind of frowned and looked down on the Scots, right? So what did the Scots do, to get over this? So the leadership of Scotland, 400 years ago, they turned around and said, we should try to figure out how to be the book capital of the world, like knowledge. This was when you had to write out books by hand, folks. Then we didn't have a printing press. I think we had a printing press, but it was probably still expensive. But I think when they kind of started down this cottage industry, they wanted to figure out how to be a mass producer of books, and for the world as they knew it back then. And as a result, as you can imagine, if you want to produce books and that's your national export, you got to hire a lot of people that like to read and like to think and like to edit and do all this type of stuff, right? And so the Scots, they got really smart. Literally, they didn't get smart by accident, folks. They started reading and writing a lot of books and manuscripts, and that was a massive industry. Well, if you think about it, if you're your nation is a publisher of knowledge and books, you're going to come up with a lot of stuff that you're going to get to see everything, and you're like the nexus of information. So it's not a coincidence that Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, right? Which is the transition away from feudalism or AKA crony capitalism, where you have people that don't own anything. You just have the lords, and then you have the serfs. And if we're not careful as a nation, and there is some of this already happening right now, we're turning into, the younger generation is turning into a nation of serfs, and we have to turn around and fix it. And the only way you can do it is through education and teaching people how to create value that's more permanent and lasting than what's currently happening. So with regards to people that are Jewish, the Jewish have been kind of gone after by a lot of societies globally for years, and it's an interesting problem that the Jews have, because I think part of the problem, and I've talked to Jews about this, is they're one of the only religions that do not evangelize. And so, they don't try to convert more people to Judaism. And as a result, it kind of is more of an exclusive type of religion, I guess you can say, when you don't actively try to include everybody else. And, the traditions of Judaism, we talked about that yesterday. With regards to Judaism, it's a hell of a lot more work. Pardon the pun with using the word hell, but it is much more work than Christianity. I've read a fair amount of Jewish writings just for curiosity more than anything, and obviously the Old Testament is Jewish, and so forth, and Jesus was a Jew, and so all this stuff kind of overlaps. But when you kind of look at the principles and not just that, kind of the rule book of what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to follow, it's pretty intense. It's rigorous, and but it's some of that rigidness is a turnoff to some people, but some of that rigidness leads to results that minimize, lead to results that happen because there's fewer mistakes that are being made. So anyways, that's just something to think about. But it's not a coincidence that these three groups that I talked about are all super wealthy relative, even though they're a small percentage of the U.S. population, they have a disproportionate amount of wealth relative to other groups in aggregate, and this is why. And so anyways, it ties into Exodus 16. So at least for me. So when I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, it makes perfect sense. They learned their lesson early on. Because they studied their book, they studied the teachings of Christ, not Christ, but the God, because this was before Jesus Christ. But anyways, this is the deal. They get to reap the rewards, and you don't need a whole lot of compounding, folks, over time to get huge advantages. And if they had this advantage, in a sense, by living the word and living these rules, we look at the world today. There's a reason why certain groups have done better than others. It has nothing to do with anybody trying to hold anybody down. They just got a little more organized longer back, going back longer in time. So you shouldn't complain about it. You should learn what are the most successful groups in society do that makes them so successful. And, copying somebody's success, patterns of success is the best form of flattery. But in order to do that, you can't think negatively of a group. You're not going to think negatively of a group if you incorporate the best parts of their culture into your group. It's kind of tough to do. Try to do that. Try to be angry and happy at the same time. It's a difficult thing to do. So I would say the same thing when you learn key lessons from other groups that are successful. When you incorporate them into your own culture, your own life, it's very tough to be mad at them. And frankly, this is one of the reasons why America is such a great nation. And it's the greatest nation, actually, in the history of the world, because we've done the best job of allowing other cultures not only to come here and not have any memory of what happened elsewhere, but to incorporate the best aspects of other cultures into our own collective American culture. And it's a beautiful thing when you do this. That's the deal. That's Genesis 16. So what should I do to these people? Now, this is when they're complaining about water, folks. So then the Lord says, walk in front of the people, take your staff and hit a stone, and then water would come out. Moses named the place Massa, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, is the Lord here with us or not? And, when is the Lord with us here or not? It's kind of like, show a little gratitude, folks. That's what I'm thinking when I'm kind of reading Exodus 17 is like, God just saved you, and he led you out of this mess. He destroyed all your enemies by closing in the Red Sea on them, and you still doubt him. It's kind of like, what have you done for me lately? That's what it kind of feels like. When I'm kind of reading this, I'm like, come on, what have you done for me lately? And there's something to be said about this concept when you read this, when you think about the world that we live in. We live in this world where a lot of companies that used to be about longevity, trying to do the right thing over time, small businesses, in local towns, etc., where people used to have more pride, I think, back then, and maybe it's a nostalgia that isn't real. I happen to think it is. And then people, started shifting their behavior, and maybe we've been kind of brainwashed with this cancel culture mentality. Business is supposed to be a very intimate thing. You do business with people you trust. You do business with people that you like, and you share their values. You kind of incorporate it into your sense of spirit and your sense of being. And then what kind of happened is this whole corporatization process, where businesses tried to break apart that process and make it so that everything was able to be dissected into smaller pieces and eliminate the need to trust anybody. Have you noticed that? So this is what's happened over time, is this continual pursuit to make it unnecessary to deal with human beings that you trust. And I think it's all backfired. I think this is why we're in the mess that we're in, because for decades they've been moving us down this path where they try to train everybody to think you shouldn't trust anybody at all, and nobody knows how to trust anybody. And so as a result of not trusting anybody, you should just follow what big government says, or communists say, or the lords, like the fake people in this world say, the ones that want to act as though they're gods when they're not. And so this is what we're up against, is we need to restore basic decency and trust in ourselves. We need to trust ourselves in our judgment once again. And then when we can get to the point where we trust ourselves because we have a connection back with God, we reconnect and be part of God and can feel that connection, then we'll move outward and start to find other people and individuals, and maybe trust our family more, trust our friends more. And just because you have trust doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, folks. You can trust somebody and they make a mistake, and that's okay. That doesn't break the trust. What hurts the trust is if they lie about the mistake. So sometimes people confuse the two, like, oh yeah, I can't trust that person anymore. They made a mistake. No, that's not why you lose trust. You lose trust if you lied about the damn mistake. So don't lie, tell the truth, fess up to the mistake, deal with the consequences, and realize that there's always ways to improve. And so anyways, that's my take on the rest of Exodus 17. So we're on to Matthew 22. And wow, almost 38 minutes, man, I could talk. So Jesus told the other parables. The kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a king who prepared a great wedding feast for his son. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servants to notify those who were invited, but they all refused to come. So he sent servants to tell them, the feast has been prepared, the bulls and fattened cattle have been killed, and everything is ready. Come to the banquet. But the guests he had invited ignored and went their own way, one to his farm, another to his business. Others seized his messengers and insulted them and killed them. The king was furious, and he sent out his army to destroy the murderers and burn their town. And he said to the servants, the wedding feast is ready, and the guests I invited aren't worthy of the honor. Now go out in the street and invite everyone you see. So the servants brought in everyone they could find, good and bad alike, and the banquet hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to meet the guests, he noticed a man who wasn't wearing a proper clothes for a wedding. Friend, how is it that you are here without wedding clothes? But the man had no reply. Then the king said to the aides, bind his hands and feet and throw him into the outer darkness, where he would be weeping and gnashing of his teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. It's just a weird story when you think about this. Many are called and few are chosen. So the king had everybody come in, right? And then after he had everybody come in, they didn't dress appropriately. So then he threw this gentleman out. I'm not really sure what to make of that one, folks. I'm thinking about it, and maybe if someone can come up with that, that would be wonderful. And you can share, if you can come up with what this means, that would be wonderful. I think the Jews turned away, Pharisees and Sadducees wanted them killed, Gentiles and sinners were the rest. Pharisees and Sadducees wanted to kill him. Many are invited, but not everyone wants to come with a genuine heart. I know, but he invited them in. But so do you think that it's an analogy that the clothing was not having the genuine heart? April 4th. I gotta check this chosen thing out. Everybody keeps talking about this chosen. Oh God, nothing I expected different. Okay, I'll take a let me go back to this one. Let me take a look here. Okay, that's good, Morena. I can buy that. Okay, then the Pharisees met together to plot how to trap Jesus into saying something he could be arrested for. Okay, then Jesus knew their evil motives. You hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me what the coin is used for, the tax. And then he handed him a Roman coin and said, whose picture is it stamped on? Caesar's? Well, then give Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give God what belongs to God. His reply amazed them, and they went away. So, we've all heard about that before, right? And if you think about it in the context of, if you think about it in the context of us as a nation, we have currency, and on the currency it says, in God we trust. And so that currency, if you think about this whole concept, and there's been a lot of people that have brought it up more and more lately than ever before with regards to the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve with fractional banking creates money out of thin air. I understand all that. Everybody who knows anything about fractional banking understands this concept. And it creates this distortion of our labor, because when you create fractional banking, you basically defractionalize or take away some of our labor, so to speak. And this is part of the problem, is that when you continue to debase the currency, you debase the other aspects of your labor that you've put off on spending until the future dates. That's the whole point of of savings, right? So that you can have the money in the future years. And so, this story about Caesar's coin and that money being a paper money, so to speak, when you have paper money and you just have cash, it does seem to lose value more so than actual physical assets or things that retain the value of your labor. And I think we're in a weird spot as a nation, and not just the nation, but worldwide. There's been a big push to debase our currencies, take on debt. And some people are concerned about an outright crash of the economy. I do not believe that's going to happen. But do I think that there will be a lot of people that will be hurt and there will be a lot of sectors that will be negatively impacted? Yes. Do I think everything is going to crash? No. I do not believe that. And I think that there's an incentive for that not to happen by the people that have the most to lose. But I do think that they're really good at figuring out how to take it right to the limit, to cause as much pain as possible, to have people do silly things. And so when I kind of read this, that's what comes to my mind, is that our government is in on it. And I guess you can say if we give money that belongs to the government back to the government, theoretically, if you want to translate that, so to speak, the way you can translate it is just stop working for things that pay you money. Just barter it away. And how could you do that? Well, I've done this calculation before, and I think some families do this, and maybe we need to have more families to go back to this. But when you add up, when you have two people working in a household, and you have to pay tax on the rate for those two people, and then you have other expenses like transit costs and clothing costs and food costs, going on lunch and everything. And then you look at the cost of child care, and you look at the cost of health care, because maybe your health is a little worse if you both are stressed. and you look at the cost of, your productivity because the diet isn't as good because you're always eating out. And if you really magnify, you kind of added up all those costs, and you're like, okay, this person's making X number of dollars, but they make, let's just say they make 50,000. I'm just making up numbers. They have 2 kids, and the child care costs, $28,000, $25,000. So now you're down to 25 from 50, but the 50,000 you had to pay taxes on. So now you're down from 50 down to 40. So 40 minus 25, you got 15,000 left. But then you're eating out all the time. $10 a day, that's $50 a week, $2,400. So now you're 12,000, 15,000 goes down 2,400. So now you're at 12,600. But then all of a sudden you got commute costs. So you got to park at the train. You got to take the train. That's $16 a round trip. That's $80. Now you're up to whatever. You're up to $300. So now you're at 3,600. So now you're down to 9,000. So you start adding all this up, right? You're like, you do the math, and it's like, wait a second. I'm buying into this rat race. I'm like, someone's making 50 grand, and they're in a married couple, and then they feel like they got to do something, and then they do something, but then there's nothing to show for what they're doing. And in the meantime, their children are being raised by strangers. They don't have those experiences with their kids. They're not going to be able to look back on it. They don't have the connection to their children that they once used to have. They're eating foods that they shouldn't be eating. They're wasting their time on a train because there's nothing they can do. Maybe they're not effective reading. There's all this crazy stuff. And if you just disconnect and say, how should I set this up? Like, what is a good way to organize my life? Well, a funny thing happens. You give Caesar back what Caesar wanted. You're like, here's your damn money. I'm not playing that game. I'm out of here. I'm going to, one of us is going to make what we need to make. And then the rest of the stuff that we do, we're going to create ourselves. We don't need to make as much money as you think, because we can create and make our own meals and make the right meals. We don't need all this help with childcare. We're going to raise our own kids. We're not going to outsource our experience of our human experience by giving it to a bunch of strangers. And there's a fine line with this, folks. I'm not saying this should all be done this way, but all I'm saying is we should definitely be more cognizant of it and think it through before we make these decisions. And finding that right balance is a difficult thing. And my wife, we do have childcare ourselves, and we hired somebody that helps homeschool our girls, because we didn't want them to wear masks in a Montessori school. And they were, that school wouldn't let them do it. And I immediately said, I have no interest. I'd rather hire somebody that just teaches them full time. And, that being said, with my wife having another baby, and she works with me in the company, I said, over time, I'd rather hire a couple other people, and, I'd rather you just stay on the really focused value add things that you utilize your skill set, and the things that we can hire out and create another job for somebody else who wants to do that. I'd rather do that. And then you have more time with the kids. And so that's one of the things we've talked about, like of finding people. I'd rather create jobs and activities that can be done that you shouldn't outsource. And then you should free up the time for the activities that you shouldn't be outsourcing, if that makes sense. So that's the way I would explain it. Try to keep the activities that you don't want to, that's supposed to be, the essence of life. Don't outsource those activities. Outsource the activities that you really don't want to be doing. And you got to be aware of the difference. You should really think through the difference so that you don't miss out on everything that's happening during the short time that we're here. So anyways, Jesus replied, okay, this was the whole thing with the brothers. Like if the wife dies, the younger brother keeps marrying the wife until it's all over, so this was on Matthew 22. So there were 7 brothers. They all marry the same woman. That woman dies. All the brothers die. Who are they married to when they all are in heaven together? And Jesus replied, your mistake is that you don't know the scripture, and you don't know the power of God. For when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given a marriage, In this respect, they will be like the angels in heaven. But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob died, God said, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So he is the God of the living, not the dead. When the crowds heard them, they were astounded by his teaching. So, it's an interesting concept, right? He is the God of the living. So what exactly is living? See, in our minds, I think some of us think that living is literally the physical form. If we can't see it, then it's not living. And nothing could be further from the truth. The spirit of certain individuals, certain people, certain things that happen to you, people that have touched your life, they live well after their physical body is gone. And, wrap your head around that for a little bit. But if you think about key people in this world, in this life, like we're talking about Jesus Christ. So talking about, like when you talk about Jesus Christ and you think about Christ, he's gone. His physical body is gone, but his spirit lives in all of us. And he was a reminder of how the spirit lives in all of us. It's kind of funny how the light is getting brighter. You see that? I like that. It's kind of interesting how all this kind of works out. But anyways, that I think that's the whole moral of the story is that we shouldn't get caught up on the physical world. If we don't get caught up on the physical world and we think about our eternal life, I think it will change the way you live this life. When you sit back and you think about how we are here temporarily in this physical form, but that doesn't mean we're here temporarily in spiritual form. And our spirit encompasses our body, not the other way around. So that's the deal with that, with Matthew 22. And you guys all know what I think about Matthew. So, okay, now we'll go to Psalm of David. The Lord is my light and salvation, and why should I be afraid? The Lord is my fortress, protecting me from danger, and why should I tremble? When evil people come to devour me, when my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though a mighty armor surrounds me, my heart will not be afraid. Even if I am attacked, I will remain confident. The one thing I ask the Lord, that the thing that I must seek, is to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, delighting in the Lord's perfections and meditating in his temple. For he will conceal me when the troubles come. He will hide me in his sanctuary. He will place me out of reach of one rock. Then he will hold my head high above the enemies around me. The sanctuary I will offer sacrifice with shouts of joy, singing and praising the Lord of music. So let's think about this. You'll be meditating in his temple and delighting in the Lord's perfections and so forth, and conceal when troubles arise. If you go into your spiritual being, right? If you go into that, as the Hindus would say, that space of nirvana, and if you haven't meditated, I really think, that you should give it a shot sometime, where you kind of lose your physical sense of being. You can just go into a complete state of nothingness. All of us have the ability to do it, and then that's literally the way you go back to your source. You go back to the source of all life, which is God. And if you do that, I think that your enemies can't touch you. Nothing can touch you. You're in God's protection in that pure state, and nothing in this world truly matters when you get into that moment of space. I know that sounds a little crazy, but you almost disappear, as though you're still here physically, but energetically, like your spirit and your sense of calm and being, it's like when you close your eyes and you don't think of anything. It's there. It's there, but it's the void, as they say. So when you can get into that state of the void and that inner peace, and you can truly do that, that's a wonderful time to ask questions, folks. Like if you ask questions for things you want to understand, it's like you're a receptor. You can pull in information from God. You can pull in information that resides within your DNA, and you can answer a lot of really big questions to what happens, or what the meaning of life is, and how you can maybe solve some problems that you're facing or some other people are facing. So, anyways, that's my take on that one. So we're on to Proverbs 6. My son, obey your father's commands and don't neglect your mother's instruction. Keep their words always in your heart. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, their counsel will lead you. When you sleep, they will protect you. When you wake up, they will advise you. For their command is a lamp and their instruction is a light. Their corrective discipline is the way of life. It will keep you from the immoral woman, from the smooth tongue of a promiscuous woman. Don't lust for her beauty. Don't let her coy glances seduce you. For a prostitute will bring you to poverty, but sleeping with another man's life will cost you your life. That's pretty interesting, right? We obviously this could be, this is literal, but it's also figurative. Like, we're constantly being tempted, not just with regards to lust, but we're being tempted to trade off our lives in other ways and sacrifice our life, and possibly sacrifice our life at the expense of our family. So this isn't just about people that are cheating with, cheating with women, cheating with, prostitutes, or cheating with other women that aren't your wife, or I guess you could say the opposite for women that are cheating on their husbands, etc. This is about, at least for me, my interpretation of this is, what are you seeking? Why are you running or seeking comfort elsewhere from what you have in front of you, the gifts that you have in front of you? And those gifts could be your family. It could be your sometimes, I guess, your job. Some people don't give it their all in their job. And then they're kind of seeking elsewhere. And I think there's nothing wrong with looking for another job, folks. I'm not suggesting that, but you owe it to where you're at in any moment in time, and the employer that you have, to give them the respect they deserve when you're there. And then when you're in your own space and time, if you're looking for another opportunity, you have that right to do that too. But I think a lot of times in life, what we've noticed is there's this disrespect that kind of has spilled over into a lot of different areas where people are checked out. They're there and they're working as just as hard enough not to get fired, but and their employers are paying them just enough so they won't quit. And we have a horrific situation when this happens. And so, part of why this is happening is because people are not honoring the contract, so to speak, of what's fair and equitable for both sides of the situation. It's, once again, it's this like gunk. It's a mush. People are just kind of going about their business, going through the motions, and it's it's a sad state, right? And this is why we have as many problems as we have in this world and in this country, is because nobody really calls that out, and it's tough to create. It's tough to create what I'm describing in a lot of institutions and companies. I've had this conversation with my wife, and I've had it with other people about various nonprofits and other institutions and political parties even. And, I hate to say it, but some of this stuff has been so corrupted and it's so broken, and there's so many bad people in it that, it's probably, you probably need to just start it anew. You guys start from scratch. And, anyways, that's the thing. When you cheat, it undermines trust right out of the gate. And cheating employees, cheating is not just cheating in like on a spouse or in a relationship, but it's also cheating somebody of their time. If somebody's paying you for your time in a particular job and you're looking elsewhere, that's the problem. diving into a bowl of ice cream. That's pretty funny. I got my little drink here, my little beverage. But anyways, when you're looking elsewhere, when you know you have a deal to be working for somebody at a particular rate, and what you say you're going to do for somebody, you have to honor that obligation, right? I see this all the time in my industry, folks. There's a lot of people in the financial services industry, and maybe some of them are watching this right now, but I don't know. But there's a lot of people in the financial services industry that do as little as humanly possible. They don't try to get better. They don't try to do anything different. They don't try to figure out how to save their clients more money or make them more money or make sure what's fair. They don't do any of that. They're like, I'm going to get paid this much, and I don't care if I do anything. I do a little. If it goes well, I make a little more. If it doesn't go so well, I still get paid. And they just go about their business. And it's sickening. And it's like the mentality, not just in finance, but in a lot of other businesses, is like, how much can I make with putting in the least amount of effort? That seems to be the mantra. It's like people take pride and are proud of the fact that they figured out how to make more off of somebody than what was fair. And I don't subscribe to that. I think it's disgusting. And, I think it's sad that we've kind of evolved to that, to where when you don't think that, you're the outlier. Like at times I feel like I'm the oddball, right? For being what things used to be. It's very bizarre. The whole thing is extremely bizarre at times. But I'm hoping that it becomes, it starts to shift the other way. I really do. I think it is. And hopefully it shifts the other way before everything is lost, I guess is what I would say. So with that, I think we're done for the night. What else we got here? Cilicia clan, calling it Gene. All right. So with that, folks, thank you all for joining tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow. This morning, I don't know, I had a problem. I went live. It wasn't working. I tried to go live again. It wasn't working again. And so for those of you who haven't heard, I did talk to Herschel Walker a couple nights ago, and I'm encouraging him to run for the governor of Georgia. And that if I'll help any way I can with the data if he decides to run. So we'll see what happens with that. And if you are interested in helping me in Geneva, I talked to Jovan, by the way. He said something happened with Georgia, with one of the lawyers there. That was deep state. So, that was about it. And so, thanks, Thomas. So basically, with regards to Geneva, the town I'm in, if anybody has some time to make some phone calls, it's I factor about 3 minutes a call. If you get a hold of somebody, obviously if you call and there's nobody there, nothing to do. But I wrote out a script. I did an Excel file. If you happen to have 5-10 hours in the next 10 days and you want to make anywhere from 100 to 300 phone calls, email me at bobbypiton@gmail.com. In the line, I just typed it out here. Type in what is it? Just put I want to help Tom. I want to help Tom. Okay, so Tom Simonian is the one running against this mayor of the town that I live in. The mayor of the town. This is me personally, folks. I heard him tell me when I asked him the question why he supports partial birth abortion and supporting Lauren Underwood of the Illinois 14th District. And he told me he didn't think there was anything wrong with it, that, that's the law of the land. And, I strongly disagree. And so all I could tell you is that this person, in my opinion, is a very sick individual. He's got a police record not police record. He's got some stuff. I got to post all this stuff. I don't post it all on Facebook, but he's done a lot of really bad stuff. And I'll just share the details so I don't screw it up by telling you. But, the average person in Geneva, Illinois, the average household, I've computed is paying about $250 more per month every month, that because of the fact of him being mayor. That's how much he's outspent the inflation growth in this town. So the average family is spending over $3,000 more per year because of his incompetence. So anyways, I'm crowdsourcing this problem nationwide, and I'm going to see if this works on a local election. If it works on a local election where we can effectuate change, maybe this whole concept in this model will work, where other communities across the country can call on other concerned citizens to step in and help turn local elections in which corrupt individuals are in office. So that's the idea, folks. So if you have time, give me a shout and email me, and I will more than happy. I'll give you a call tomorrow and get you a list of some names to call with the script, and we could take it from there. The election's on April 6th. So we got 12 days as of tomorrow. So thank you all so much. God bless you. God bless your family and friends. May God continue to bless the greatest nation in the history of the world. And may peace be with you. And if for some reason you do not have peace, put your faith in God first, and I have no doubt that you will find it. So with that, have a wonderful evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Only 332 days to go. Kind of feel like that Johnny Cash song. So have a good night. Thank you. God bless.